All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Bases and the EMS Sports channel. I have the great pleasure of welcoming Mike Terrio, one of my broadcast partners throughout the years with the Boston Metro Baseball League. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Whit. Thanks for having me, bud. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time coming. Just like with Dan last week, we've been in playoff games together, broadcasting All-Star games. So this is going to be a fun conversation. And to get right into things, what got you into the Boston Metro Baseball League or Boston baseball in general? Because you've had a lot of teams and hats over the years that you've been involved in Boston baseball. So what got you into it, and kind of get us started with that?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I started in the Yawkey League, but I met a friend of mine who was from Somerville, and he ran a 28 plus team called the Somerville Cubs, obviously now defunct. But that's how pretty much my BMBL, well, back then it was Boston Baseball League, but Boston Men's Baseball League. But that's how I got started because it was local. They played their home games at Trum. There was also back then the Somerville Senators were still around, but they were in another league. Back then the leagues were the National and the American, so there was two different leagues. That's when baseball was huge and they had different divisions and stuff like that. So, but that's how I got my start, and it was fun. I mean, again. I think everybody knows that I play for multiple leagues and multiple teams, but in the Boston Men's Baseball League now, BMBL, that's where I got my start, and the rest is pretty much history. You know what I mean? So,
Well, speaking of you being on a lot of different teams, how many different uniforms do you have for anyone who doesn't know your story? And do you have a favorite story behind one of them, or one that kind of sticks out?
um, well, to answer your question, and obviously that's a loaded question and a running joke on Facebook on how many different uniforms that I have, which is You know, I would say probably somewhere in the 30s, like upper 30s. I haven't since checked. Um, but a lot of that behind that is what happens is yes, there are times where I'll leave a team where, I'm not, let's just say per se, not having fun anymore. I think everybody experiences that sometimes. I don't think it's more or less a question of loyalty, but honestly, most of the team's jerseys that I have, they've folded, so I've had to go somewhere else. That's the fun fact part about it. Is as far as like experiences in uniforms, I think I have pretty much a lot of unique experiences with all of them. I mean, obviously, winning titles with certain teams hold a little bit more weight, but I've played for a lot of teams that were great onto their own right, and met some really great people on those teams that I'm still in contact with today, or I end up playing against. That's what happens when you play on so many different teams. You end up building these friendships, but then sadly you have to play against them and even lose to them or beat them, one way or another. I mean, there's obvious choices in uniforms that I'm very fond of. Most of them are, my home city. Like playing for Somerville Brandies is a great thing to do. To have for a uniform. It's an honor to play for such a great organization and well-run franchise, which is great. The other couple of uniforms, probably a Giants uniform from the old defunct Cable. They're now in another league. Um, the other one would be the Expos from the Cape and their franchise stuff too. I've played in the 28s, but probably one of the most memorable is probably winning the Cape in 2023 with the Expos, because I have been going down there for so long and finally got over the hump with a great group of guys. It was just an amazing run. So I think if I had to pick three, those would probably be the three. Oh, and the one year that I played for the Bulls, which was another great team with Steve Busby, John Hayes, et cetera, et cetera. They're always loaded. They just won it last year. That was a great run. We ended up ending the Metro Red Sox potential three-peat. So that was great. At that time, they were kind of like the Alabrandies of the Hockey League, or now what the Bulls are now. You know what I mean? So. Um, but yes, I do have a lot of uniforms.
So you ended the Metro Red Sox. You were talking about how you ended the Metro Red Sox three-peat. What was your favorite
Yeah.
part of that experience and what it meant to you?
I think it was just more or less that series was it was very heated. We had our moments. It was a very competitive game. Every single game was close. I think that game three ended on a walk off in extra innings, and we had them. Actually, not game three; it was game two, and they had beat us to push it to game three, and we had John Tenney going on the hill for us in a decided game three against Sam Steed, who everybody knows who Sam Steed is. He's a very good pitcher, and we're talking 6 years ago, so he was even better then. A little bit younger, obviously, with us being up in age. We always wish that we could rewind time and go back 5, 10 years, but we're very fortunate to still be playing. Um, it was a very good game, and John Tenney just pitched his butt off and led us to victory. I want to say that Busby had like a three-hit game. He came up big for us, and our defense was really good in that game, and it definitely propelled us to victory. And being a first year franchise, that was a great feat. Getting in there in the first year and winning the whole thing, which was awesome. It was just icing on the cake. So.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of three-peats, or actually a four-peat in this case, obviously the Orioles and the Metro West have won four straight championships, and I mean that's an amazing accomplishment as well. Um, how impressive you been with them? I'm sure you've broadcasted, or maybe you haven't broadcasted some of their playoff games, but even if you haven't, what are your impressions of them and what they've done? Because I mean, that's not something you see every day or every year, really.
No, fun fact, I'm very friendly with Chris Curry. He was the one who was actually the one who got me into playing down the Cape in the Cape Cod tournament. I actually played for him first. I got my feet wet. And he's a great guy, and he's a great architect. I don't know, in a previous interview, he said it best. He was like, we're a family. He treats everybody the same, and the teammates, I mean, I went down there and played in a doubleheader, just to be able to play for him again because it's so much fun, and I know that it's a great group of guys. And what they're doing in the Metro West is nothing short of amazing, but he's built a culture, a brand, an energy. It's something different. Like you'd actually have to be there and sit in the dugout and listen to the back and forth to understand it. Yes, we rag on each other and we say certain things and all that stuff, but that's just part of being on a team. You know what I mean? You have the serious guy, you have the joker, you have the sensitive guy. Like Chris handles everything with grace. He's just an amazing coach and person on top of it. And anybody who plays for him loves him and would run through a brick wall. And that's how he builds the foundations of his teams. And that's why they have been so good for so long, is because number one, they recruit well, but they have a foundation and a base, and he knows exactly what he's looking for to win. It's a common recipe for any team that any good team that's built, like the Bulls are built well. The Cardinals are the 38s, the Expos are the 28s. I mean, the Boston Bombers, they've been around for a long time. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the good teams that have actually accomplished winning, have a good core group of base of guys, but they all have a common goal, common bonds, a culture that is just it's perfect. It works for them, and everybody, every team, and every culture, and every brand is different. Do you know what I mean? But it perpetuates emotion towards winning. That's very, very important, and that's what Chris conveys with the Orioles. I think it's amazing. I mean, I'm just like anybody else. I'm like, when are you going to lose? When is it going to happen? But they just keep recruiting and rolling along. It's an amazing thing. I like them all. They all have a lot of weighted value. I mean, I think we already talked about one of them, but one of the most important ones was I had been asked to play on a 45s team, which BMBL has now acquired, and I'm actually going back to this team now that it's since been acquired by the BMBL, is the Woburn Nationals. A friend of mine on Alabrandi's 38s at the time asked me to come and play for the Nats 45s. Lenny, if you're listening, Philly Len, we like to call him Lenny Ward. Good guy. He's now since moved back south. But he asked me to play, and I literally walked onto this team, and it was basically all the Metro Red Sox that I could not stand when I was playing against them. And it was just weird being on that side of it was pretty amazing. It was a really good team, and it was a really good run, and it was something that I had needed because it was right after my father passed away. So I wanted to do something good and win something in his honor. So it was a great group of guys to be around. Also with my 38 team too, another great group of guys during that time frame where it was, it's anytime you lose somebody, it's very difficult. But they were great to me and welcomed me with open arms, and winning that championship meant a lot to me. All the other ones are good, but those two stand out to me, and obviously the 2016 Somerville Alabrandi's 38's first championship, which was a great series and a great win. You never forget the first one. So, and to come home and play for Mike Powers, the infamous Mike Powers of the Alabrandi's Somerville Brandy's Yawkey League days, and I obviously I still play for him now. So those are the three that come to mind. I mean, obviously, I would mention the Giants of the Cable, which was a great team, bunch of Glen kids who had never won it before, had never won a championship before in their adult lives, and I had since won. And as a player, it makes you want to play even harder for them and want them to experience it um, for the first time. And to accomplish that with the North Shore Giants was just amazing because that was another family atmosphere. And just like I was alluding to Chris Curry's team, like that was our team. We would run through a wall for each other and play for each other. We hung out after games, hung out with each other's families. Like it was just amazing. So shout out to Mike Roberts for running a great team up there in Lynn. So I will say and I'm speaking for a lot of baseball players that have wives and families and stuff like that. It's a very fine line to balance your first love for most of us men that are playing. Um, that is our first love, and then we happen to get into family life and try and still play the game that we love, but also be a father and a husband and all those things. And you really have to you really have to work at it and understands that. But again, I have a very, very understanding wife who is amazing, that understands that how much I love the game. I mean, maybe a little bit to the point where it's just obsessive, and she thinks that I'm crazy that I want to play like 3 or 4 games in a row. But I will say, she's been my wife and my kids are awesome. I mean, they love it. They love the fact that my kids love the fact that they're like, my dad still plays in his late 40s, and I'm sure, I'm one of many, many guys that do that. But having that experience of having your kids being able to watch you play or see you play or be interested, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have an awesome wife who was driving the ship at home while I'm playing baseball. So I mean, it's give to get. You know what I mean? But I can't go through an interview with talking baseball without giving credit to my awesome wife. So thanks, Sam. Appreciate you.
Well, shout out to Sam. Clearly, you're allowed to be able to do what you want and enjoy it. I mean, that's what it's coming off as, and I'm sure anybody
Well, I
watching
mean,
has that
yeah.
impression
Oh, of course.
or that knows you.
Yeah, within reason. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You gotta pick and choose your spots. You know what I mean? A lot of times nowadays, as most gentlemen do when they get older, they choose logistics over driving far and stuff like that. Like the running joke for me is like I don't go south of the bridge. It's just not worth it. If it takes longer for me to drive to the game than to actually play it, I don't want to play. I'd rather play locally. And I'm not saying anything different. People who will probably see this interview and be like, and laugh and be like, this guy's true to his word. You know what I mean? So
Hey, I don't cut things out unless it's egregious, and I don't see that happening with you. So you're good.
no, play it
You know,
along, man.
and this is the fun part about this is, I mean, I'm sure you know this with any of your teammates that you played with as well as like building connections is important, which brings me to the next question. Do you have any teammates that kind of stand out that you really, have helped keep you going as long as you have? And what's their favorite performance of theirs that you've ever seen on the field or anything they've done off the field as well? Just something that makes them stand out. And yeah, if you want to name a couple, and obviously it's hard to pick one, but if you had
It
one that
is.
came off the
It
top of your
is.
head, who would it be
It
and why?
is, man. I mean, I've played with so many different players and different walks of life that are amazing. I can't like point out specific things that they did. And honestly, I have so many like acquaintances and friends. I kind of don't want to piss them off, if you know what I mean, or I don't want to catch one in the back. But the people that like are that I'll say it this way, the people that are important to me as teammates that I love as friends and on and off the field. And listen, I love everybody the same when I'm on a team. The people that stand out to me the most, guys like like Mike Roberts, Bobby Kimber, Jose Paulino, um, my teammates now, like Sal Mandonka, Tommy McDonough, Dan Fields, John Jones, JP. You know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on of a lot of impactful guys that I've played with that, Jose Paulino comes to mind. I'm very close to him. Like, it's just certain things that they may see that you don't, or they send you a text and ask you how you doing, or you're on a text thread where you can actually share personal information with, and they can understand that, or a situation where, and that's where before we became on air, how we utilized baseball as a tool into the game of life and how you meet different people. It's not only challenging on the field, it's challenging off the field too. And having teammates that can pick you up in that aspect is great. You know what I mean? So my list is is pretty big. It's just like anything else. You spend a summer with people playing a game, they're probably some of the most important people for that summer, or maybe for the rest of your life, or just in that particular time frame that you're in it. You know what I mean? So I can't really pick out any particular moment, but there's been a lot of great ones of those people that I've named. I've shared some great memories with, and more importantly, as friends, and being able to use the game to be connected. You know what I mean? So that's a good thing about it.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received from a teammate, a coach, or anyone in any of the leagues that you've been a part of, and how do you apply it to your game today?
Okay. I'm gonna have to go back to probably 2010. I had just come off a year hiatus, and I was looking for another team to play for in the Yawkey League, and an old teammate of mine was running a team called the Malden Bulldogs, and before then, I had played for some really bad teams, and I learned to lose and I learned to accept it. So I went to this franchise, and Kevin McGovern and Pat Spellman gave me a chance, but they did tell me that I'd have to earn my spot. That nothing was going to be exactly handed to me. So I played my way into a situation where I could play center field every day and bat lead off, and played on a really, really good team for the first time in a long time. With the likes of Engelhart and Tardugno, both Dugno brothers, Jonathan Pollard, Christopher Dean. Like our lineup was just loaded with talent. Anthony Parry too, whom I play in 38s with, who's a great guy, batted behind me, and it was just a great season. It was a magical season where um all I had to do was my job, and it was weird that there was no pressure on me coming off a team where I had to produce and then get into a situation where I didn't have to. I didn't have a lot of pressure on me, and made the game fun after suffering for so long. And it reinvigorated me, but it also taught me how to understand the process of winning. And I had a great staff for that, and I had great teammates who gave me necessary feedback, which was very, very important. And it was a great experience. It was basically the foundation to which I learned to be a good teammate, a good player, to understand that it's okay to fail because you have 9 or 10 people behind you that are going to pick you up, and you never know when it's going to be your turn. So it was just a great experience, and Kevin and Pat know that because I let them know often when I see them, or I talk to them. But that's my baseball experience, where my trajectory as a player went from being somewhat just a average role model player on a team to a situation where I know how to win, and if I get into a situation in a culture, it's only going to make things good, better, or great if you're with like-minded people that want to win. So it was great.
Obviously, I mean, we've been in a few playoff games and great moments together over the years. Do you have a
Yeah,
favorite game, tournament, whether, it's one that we've broadcasted together or just in general? Because there's a lot to choose from, obviously, from how long you've been in the league and all that. So the floor is
yeah.
yours on that part.
Um, it wasn't even a game that I played in. It was the Senators Expos championship series. I mean, basically, what did we have? 3 extra inning games. With it had everything in between. And I just remember every time that I would come into the park, I'm like, what's gonna happen in this game and how long is it gonna last? That just like Probably, probably one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had, to be not playing. And the sad part is that I was on the Expos, and I had previously played the previous team that I played for on the 28th was the Senators, and I ended up getting hurt, and Oz had to move on, which understandably so, because I wasn't healthy enough to play. They had to get somebody else, and then the Expos came calling, and I didn't get myself eligible, which I was very upset about. So when Dan contacted me to do the games, I was like, yeah, I know both teams, so I'm gonna be able to provide a lot of content for that game. So it was just amazing. It had everything in it. Mike Smith was just unbelievable with his walk-offs, and the Expos were game. I mean, considering where they came from, like we weren't very good in the beginning of the season, and to make such an epic run, like we knew it as a team that we had pitching, and if we could just string some runs together, we would be in every single game, and that's exactly what happens. We just ran into a better team, and not for nothing, like I was very very happy for all those guys over on the Senators, some of them my former teammates, but more importantly for Dan, because Dan, Dan's played as long as I have, or pretty close to, and to win his second title, one of them was a shared title, which I always joke with him. I'm like, dude, that don't count. You didn't even play the game. You just shared the title. What are you gonna do? Cut it in half? Come on. But to see him in all his glory, and show up after his, because he had conflict that day and he just showed up, and I was very very happy for him, and Oz, and Sal, and Mike Smith, and I mean, and the list goes on and on for the Senators. Obviously I was heartbroken for my teammates, but I mean, you saw it. It was probably the best baseball that we've ever seen, to a certain degree, in just the levity of the moment and the pressure-packed moments, and having the lights not go on time, so we had to wait, and technical difficulties and trying to figure that out, and running out of drinks and food for one of the games because it lasted so long. So like we get to the next game and we had like all kinds of stuff with the smorgasbord, because we knew we were gonna go to extra innings. So it was a great experience, and it was cool to share it with you too, because you were there too, giving us stats and content, which you're a great contribution to the broadcast. So thanks too as well. You know.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I mean, speaking of Mike Smith, I mean, him and sorry, right here, Brock Riley had that 12 inning duel, and I talked about with Dan too. I mean, that had to be probably one of the most impressive postseason performances of all time.
Yes.
And I'm sure you had a front row seat to that, right? Or was that a game
I
you weren't broadcasting?
I was not broadcasting. I was actually watching from home. Thank God.
Oh,
I mean, that's what's great about having broadcasts. It just it keeps everybody in the game. Even if you're not, like, if your team's knocked out, or even just as a casual fan, I think it's just great for the league for exposure, and you may end up picking up players for the following season, being like, oh my God, there's a league. This league looks awesome. I want to play in it. But it's great to have exposure, and for lifers like us, and I'm speaking for a lot of us. Like, if there's a game on, we're gonna watch it. If we have nothing else to do, why not? You know what I mean? I mean, it's so easy and convenient with Facebook Live and all that stuff. And Dan does a great job. And a shout out to Gibb coming into the booth and doing what he does, because he provides a lot of content too. So it was great. It just really was. And I will say I'm biased, but I think that the 28th in the BNBL is probably, bar none, one of the best leagues around. Like, I mean, the talent from top to bottom, it's just great. Like, you just, given game, even if you're a middle of the road team, or even a team that's just trying to find its own way, they will catch one of the big dogs up top, and then the playoffs, anything can happen. You know what I mean? So that's what makes it so great. Like I said, it's just a great league that continues to add key players and new players, and just the regulars are always going to be there. You know what I mean? So
I was gonna say, I was going to ask what the toughest division to play of the four are, but I guess that answers my question. And then we have new teams coming in this year too, that I was hearing about. So I don't know if you want to give a little sneak peek to anything that you know about any of those teams. Because I think you briefly touched on it earlier, or it might have been before we came on
Yeah,
or started recording.
yeah,
But yeah, if you want to give anybody anything you know or anything that people can look forward to, especially about these new teams, because it sounds like the league is going to get more competitive and potentially have new stories that can either be on this podcast or Dan's or anybody else's that
yeah,
might be popping up.
yeah.
So, floor's yours on that too.
I mean, I'm not too sure about the 2018. Like, I think there's one, maybe one. Is it the Hogs? I think they're moving up, right? And they're a decent team from 18 plus. Like, that's another league. Like, I'm not trying to slight the 18 plus league. Like, that's a very, very good league too, with the Maka Rays and the Marlins and they got a few other really, really good teams. And that's also good baseball. But 28th is where it's at. Like, I mean, you just have so many good teams with the champion Senators, the Expos, the Bombers, the Angels, and they're all reloading. They all reload every year just because if you've already built a core group of players, now they're starting to get their friends involved that are playing in other leagues. You also have guys who leave teams to go and play for other ones, obviously speaking from experience. But I'm not, again, it's those players that are making those decisions. I don't think it has to do a lot with loyalty. I think a lot of it has to do with their position on the team, their age, and there are many other factors. A lot of people like to say stuff about loyalty, but you don't know what happens between closed doors. What if they want a change? It's just like it's just like a friend of mine that said that told me this. Johnny Hayes told me this, and this was like 10 years ago. He said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, if you're not happy, why wouldn't you make a change?" Do you know what I mean? So those are the things that I go by when guys are making changes. I'm like, maybe they weren't happy. You know what I mean? Or maybe they see a better opportunity somewhere else where they want to play somewhere where it's either closer to home, they have other friends on the team, they want to win. You know what I mean? They're getting towards the end of their career and they just want to win before they ride off into the sunset. There's so many different variables. But yes, I think the 28th is really good. I mean, you have the 38th division that obviously right now the Bulls run. The Cardinals got a lot better in adding JP and Jonesy, or at least Jonesy. I know that. I don't know what JP is doing. JP could be, you know, who knows with that guy. He's here, there, and everywhere. He runs the Park League team and the Palmer and stuff. He's got his plate full, but both of them are good friends of mine. I wish them well. I'm sad that they're leaving Alabrandi's, but totally understand the logistics of it. They live on the South Shore. The Cardinals play out of Boston, and they're going to be very good. The Bulls are going to be very good. We should be all right. We should be competitive as well. The 38th division is pretty decent too. Sneaky good for older guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the 28s that come up and play too. So it's night in and night out. Um, it's very good competitive baseball, and then with adding 45s, that just builds out the BMBL and the competitive part of it, and for the older gentlemen that are getting to the end of their rope in 38s or want to play both 38s and 45s like yours truly. It gives you that opportunity to play on a Sunday, Monday. So great job by the BMBL brass and Brett and community and all them for doing that, because that just opens up much more opportunity for everybody in the Boston metro area.
Okay, and then for you personally, have you ever considered being an umpire like Angie or Dan? Because I know I was dying to ask that question because I'm like I've seen obviously Dan played or has been playing for a long time and then became an
Yeah,
umpire. So is
yeah.
that something you've ever considered doing, or is that something that's just not something you want to do personally?
Um, I don't think I would do it while I was playing. I mean, I've thought about it. I mean, before I became a center fielder, I was a catcher for a long time. So, I knew how to work the umps. from time to time. I would definitely consider it. But for right now, I think I'm gonna leave it to Dan and Angie. That was a great question. Wait, I didn't see that one coming, but that was a good question. Good question.
So, is there a player that you can maybe confidently say or predict that would have a breakout season in 2026? That could win Cy Young, MVP, or just have a big contribution, or be maybe a sneaky player that comes out of nowhere that maybe people don't see coming, and why?
Uh, in our leagues in amateur baseball,
Any amateur baseball league, hockey, BMBL, any of the leagues that you're a part of.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players to watch that I wouldn't say any of them are like sneaky, but more or less consistent. You know what I mean? You got to look at, you named them earlier. Like you got to look at the Brock Rileys. Um, you got to look at the Mike Smiths. You got to look at, you know, the Jubas of the world. Like, I mean, they're just consistent on all fronts. You know what I mean? You can't a guy like Dan Shaw if he pitched a lot for the Expos. Guys like that. A lot of them are just steady hands, and their teams need them. They rely on them to get ahead, to chalk up the wins, just to get into eligibility, get the train rolling, and stuff like that. The list goes on and on. I think the teams that you gotta watch out for, like I would say the Bombers, because you know that they're gonna reload. I know that they probably have somebody, a couple guys up their sleeve that are going to get added this season. The Angels, the Expos, they're all going to consistently add players. I don't know too much about the 18s, but I would assume that the Rays are going to be very good. Like Bill Ferdinand runs a very, 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 and Tyler too. They run a very, very good organization. I've watched them win live by calling one of their games, and they're great baseball heads. And speaking of brands and cultures of winning multiple championships, they have it. Same thing with Curry, they have it. Same thing with Hayes and the Bulls, they have it. The Bombers have it too as well, just because they have a good core group of guys. The other another team in the 38s to watch out for is obviously I just mentioned them, the Cardinals. They lost to the Bulls, but they have the pitching. They went out and grabbed some offense. I would assume that the Bulls are going to reload. The Mariners picked up Chris Curran, Chris Curran, who's very, very good, who I played down in Metro West that I met for the first time. Great guy. The work that he's doing for his son to raise awareness is just amazing. Like he's just an amazing person. I want to shout that out just because he does amazing work and I watch his podcast and stuff. So, um, but other than that, I think it's just going to be a great season. I can't put my fingers on it, but I think it's just going to be another great season, and everybody stays healthy and nobody gets hurt. And honestly, um, I'd like to see a rematch in 28. I know that's probably not going to happen, but the games to watch though is the rivalry between the Expos and the Angels. They don't like each other, as they talk a lot on Facebook and stuff, and you know who you are. It's pretty funny. I'm not getting involved in that stuff, but if you're on social media platforms, watch out for that. That first game, that's going to be a good one. That series is going to be good. There's some bad blood in there, so we'll see what happens.
Well, we talked a lot at the BNBL, but you're also involved with the Yaki League and the CABL as
Yep.
well. So if you want to talk about, I guess just to end the video, anything we can see from either of those leagues as well, because obviously you're involved with the BNBL a lot, but why should people come watch any of those leagues? And anything you want to kind of leave off with, just a final message to the fans watching.
Yeah, of course. I think that the game of baseball in the Boston area is kind of trajecting up right now, just considering how many different leagues are out there as the options to play in. You got the BBA with Omar starting his um his baseball entity, I should say. And he does a great job because there's various leagues, and I think it just provides a lot of opportunity for players to come out, whether you're old, new, you haven't played in a while, you need something to do. There's something for everybody, right? I think it's great considering the fact that probably like a year ago, I was on a podcast and we were talking about the state of baseball, and we were saying that you know the younger generation doesn't care as much for it. The commitment level is different, and it is. But I think that for us, I think we're slowly but steadily trying to revive that and modifying our approach and how to make the game attractive to that younger generation because we're all getting older now. Like, my generation is carrying like, somewhat the fringe point of 28s and 38s and 45s and stuff like that. But we also need to build the back end by opening the doors to, many other leagues, you know what I mean, which is very important. And I like the direction that it's going in a lot. Because for me personally, baseball's done a lot for me in life, and I think that it does for a lot of other people too, just to share on the personal side. You know, I'm I'm in recovery, but baseball had a lot to do with that. That serves as my meetings, hanging around with the guys, being able to play baseball, to be on my playground, which I tend to call church from time to time, is probably one of the greatest things that happened to me. It's just a great outlet to have. Everybody has different outlets that they want to use to keep them distracted. But it's kept me distracted since, I mean, first and foremost, since I was 8. I mean, I started playing baseball because I was getting in trouble and my mom put me in it and I got the bug, and the rest is history. But in the second half of my life, it's really provided a safe haven for me. And, I rely a lot on my teammates and the game itself. It's weird, right? So I get this affliction and I get myself right, but I want to play a game that sets me up to fail all the time. It's kind of a weird, you know what I mean? It's just like having your first love, your first girlfriend, you know what I mean? And um, but having the game, it serves its purpose, but sometimes it's a little bit bigger than the game when you start to involve other life processes and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the reasons why I still play. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I love the game. I still love it anyways, even if I was in a different situation, I'd still be playing. But that's probably a lot of the reason why I do still play, just because it's an outlet and stuff like that. So having the game grow the way that it is, yeah, I just think it's amazing for us in Boston. I think that things are looking up between all the leagues that we play or that we have to play in, and all those opportunities, because you never know, you know what I mean. So and then in the end, there's more games for us to call, right, Whit?
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to happen next, and that's what makes baseball great. So, thank you
Yes.
again for coming on. And we look forward to seeing what you do this season and what your teams do this season.
Oh, I appreciate it. Wait, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. And you do a good job. And I'm sure that you and I will link up, whether it's me playing and you doing the game or us teaming up again. So I'll be looking forward to that. All the best. And your journey on the show. You do a great job. I do watch your interviews and stuff like that. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great things. And all the best. And I'll see you soon.